Hey guys, I'm super excited to be back with another monthly library. I can't believe we're already halfway through the year, kind of crazy, but I really like having these type of videos that I do each month where it kind of, I don't know, not slows the passing of time, but I think makes me more aware of time passing. And so being able to sit down and be like, this is everything I read in the month of June. It's not like, holy hell, where did June go? It's like, oh, I read all these books in June. I remember June. Does that make sense? I don't know. I'm just rambling. Let's get into it. Why am I doing this? So this month, this is our library. I'm super excited to talk about these books. 6 books again. I'm on a roll for 6 books. It seems like my average at the moment, which is honestly insane. Except for one, I think they're all Japanese writers, but also they all kind of have a very similar vibe. I think after May, which was quite a difficult month for me, I was just kind of craving a lot of comfort in June. And so these are the books that I read, and there are actually 2 books that I started and I didn't finish. And I think that's because, not because they're bad, I actually do think I am going to read them one day, but I think I mentioned before that I'm a very intuitive reader, I guess, where if I'm reading a book and it doesn't feel right, I don't want to force myself to keep reading it unless it's just difficult and I need to push through the difficult. But usually I can tell within a chapter or 2 if I'm not vibing it right now. So I try not to push myself to read it, because usually there's a reason why I can't read it. And I think that was the case with these 2 did not finish books, which I guess I'll show you first. The first one was The Virgin Suicides by Jeffery Eugenides? I don't know how to say his last name. I'm sorry. I actually was enjoying it. It's just very graphic, which fair. I think you can tell by the name that it's obviously going to be a bit intense. But I think because I was craving so much comfort this month, I was just really struggling to want to pick this one back up. I got 36 pages in, so I think 2 or 3 chapters in. 1.5 chapters in, and I was enjoying it, but like I said, I didn't want to pick it back up and read it, and so I was like, now's not the time then. It's not a did not finish ever, but it's a did not finish this month. And then the second one that I started this month and then put down was The Rim of the Sky by Natalie Scott. I got 16 pages in, but 4 chapters in. Again, I was enjoying it, but it is about the Russian Revolution, and it is quite grim and a little bit confusing. And I think, like I said, it just isn't the month for this book, and I will read it because I was really excited to read it. So those are my 2 did not finish. I can't believe it. It's the first month that I had a did not finish since starting the libraries. So weird to talk about, but like I said, I was enjoying them, just not the month for it. Okay, now into the books I actually did read. So the first book I read this month was The Ex-Boyfriend's Favorite Recipe Funeral Committee by Saki Kawashiro. This one was such an interesting book. It's similar to some of the books I was reading last month, where it's a lot of little stories that kind of have a running theme in them. So with this one, the running theme is this restaurant, and it starts with Momoko, who just got dumped, turning up at this restaurant and crying and being I just got dumped. And then she cooks her ex-boyfriend's curry, because she's it's my best recipe ever. Let me cook it for you. And then the manager of the cafe was why don't I hire you to be the chef? Because the cafe doesn't have a chef. And we can run a ex-boyfriend/girlfriend funeral committee where we cook the recipes. People can bring a recipe from their ex and use it to move on, or kind of process a breakup. And so she joins, and then the rest of the book is following each character that kind of comes to the funeral committee, I guess. Sorry about that, my light just turned off, so I had to fix that. Back to this. I didn't like Momoko. I don't know, I just think the way she came in being everything sucks, my life sucks, my boyfriend just broke up with me. But then I don't know how to explain it. I'm obviously that does suck, but it just, I don't know. I didn't like the character, and so I was oh, I'm kind of struggling with this. It just feels a bit dramatic and a bit oh, boo me. Because it was a little bit, she was he hates me, I suck at everything, blah, 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 blah. And I get that that's stuff that you have to process. I don't know if I'm explaining this right. I just know that I was annoyed at the beginning, but it ended up being quite an enjoyable book. All the stories worked really well together, and like it was just like a nice light read, and it was fun to kind of like follow all the characters' journeys throughout, and also like Momoko grew as a character, which was nice, because at the beginning I was like, I don't know, maybe it's just like she seemed a bit vapid, I don't know, but I did enjoy it. And it's similar to one of the ones I read last month, but they put like the recipe at the end of the chapter, so like each recipe they put in here so like you can make it if you want to, which I think is really fun. Yeah, it was enjoyable. It was a fun read. What did I give it? I gave it 4 stars. Like, I enjoyed it. I think I just like at the beginning was a bit like but it ended up being really fun. So yeah, 4 stars. I don't know if I talked about it very well, but I liked it. Obviously, 4 stars. I think I figured out my issue. I think it felt like Momoko was written by a man, and because of that, he like gave her stereotypical reactions and emotions to like the situations that she was living through. So like her getting broken up was like, boo me, everything sucks, I'm so sad, and it was like, even if they're realistic reactions, it didn't feel realistic in the setting that the author had created. And so I think at the beginning I was a bit like, it doesn't feel like a real character. It feels like her whole personality is like, I got broken up with by my boyfriend, and that's why I struggled. But then it was nice to read the rest of the book and have her like actually get some characterization that wasn't about her ex-boyfriend. That's what I was trying to say, but like for some reason in this video could not get it across. The next book I read in June was Hot Chocolate on a Thursday by Michiko Aoyama. Same author as What You're Looking For Is in the Library. I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4 stars as well. It was actually like quite fun. Same concept as all of her books, where it's like this, like little stories that connect somehow, which is honestly the theme of almost every book this month. But anyway, this was really fun. Each chapter had like a color as the chapter title. Basically like the color is like somehow connected to the chapter. And then like the next chapter will be a character that we met in the first chapter. So it's like all super interconnected, and I love stuff like that. I always find it so interesting when it's like, oh my god, like how are we all linked together? Like what are these like moments that like connect strangers together in a way that like you wouldn't realize? It also super fun. Some of the characters like go to Sydney, Australia, which is where I live. So I was like, it was like fun that it was like fun that it was like set in Japan and set in Australia, and like you got to visit characters who lived in Australia as well, and it was just like kind of stupid. Like, I don't know, I really enjoyed it. One of the reviews on the back says, this made me see how we magically influence each other's lives without realizing it. And like that is this book. So like in chapter 1, the main character, a side character that influenced him is like then gets their own chapter, and we get to see another character that influenced them, and then we get their chapter. And so it's just like a twist and turn kind of thing, but it really is like a hot chocolate on a Thursday. That's what it feels like. I really liked it. It was fun. Also, the chapters are super short in this one. There are like quite a lot of stories, and some of them are like really little snippets. So again, I really think if you're not that into reading, or like you're trying to get into reading, these books are so good for that. Like I think they're just so easy to like enjoy little snippets and then put down. So yeah, 4 stars. The next book I read was The Vanishing Cherry Blossom Bookshop by Takuya Asakura, I think. This was really beautiful. Made me cry. I gave it 4 1/3 stars. Is that what I gave it? 4.25 stars? I don't know. I can't read my writing. Same vibe. Different little like chapters that all kind of interconnect. But the premise of this is like there is this cherry blossom bookshop that you can only visit if the girl in the bookshop reads the same book as you and the same line as you at the exact same time. And then the bookshop appears and you can go in, and then there's like a cat in there. As I'm explaining this, it just sounds so bizarre. There's like a cat in there that can then like send you back to a part of your life, because a lot of characters are like struggling with like a moment in their life that like maybe they can't remember, or like didn't say something to someone, or blah 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 blah. It was a bit weird at the beginning. I was kind of like, what the hell is going on? But it's written in such a beautiful way, and spoilers, you learn how the bookshop kind of came to be, and I think that is really beautiful. Like, it was very much like, I don't know, it just made me like emotional and like really appreciative of like the power of writing. This is kind of what got me. Like, they're talking about like, how is it that like all this like fate and all this stuff can like kind of come to be. And then it says at the end, yet the truth is you won't need to search far to find a world just like it. All you have to do is look inside a book in the same way that the girl and the cat's shop came to be. Anything can come to life in a book. Hundreds of pages bound between the front and back covers, each page filled with rows and rows of printed symbols known as letters. A book, with the help of the human imagination, brings into existence that no one has ever seen. A prince who has come from a tiny asteroid, a boy who would never grow up, a lily that takes 100 years to bloom. A book is a door to the unknown. It warmly welcomes those who step inside and transports them to all sorts of times and places. It was just really pretty. And even in the translator's note, they're like, the reader's imagination is what brings the books to life, like this book to life. And I really felt that. Yeah, I really liked it. It was really comforting. And like I said, that's what I wanted this month. So 4.25 stars, I guess. The next book I read this month was Goodnight, Tokyo by Atushiro Yoshida. I actually bought this around the same time that I bought Sweet Bean Paste, so like 2024, and like started it and then never finished it and was like, I really enjoyed it this time around. Again, a lot of little stories that all interconnect, but this was quite different, where it was like we were genuinely just following 10 people's lives around Tokyo, and they interconnected in weird ways. Whereas like with these ones, they all center around a specific place. I guess this technically centers around like Tokyo at nighttime, but it was very much like we weren't like all going to the same cafe. It was more, we were like learning about these characters' stories, and they interconnected in ways that like you would never realize. I really enjoyed the afterword. Goodnight, Tokyo is one such collection of serial short stories, but my intention could perhaps be better described as a collection of intersecting short stories. And then goes into like who all the characters are. The novel Goodnight, Tokyo is the result of the intersection of these 10 fantastic tales, and I hope a collection of short stories that can be enjoyed as 10 books in one. And that's exactly what it felt like. It felt like we were getting to follow like 10 characters, even if they were just tiny little snippets. Like some characters we genuinely only got a really short chapter and that was it. And then we had like more of those like lead characters that we kind of got to follow throughout. But it made it so fun because it was kind of like, oh, who are we going to see next? It was really enjoyable. It wasn't like each chapter's a different person. It was like you could be reading a chapter and suddenly we're in a taxi following the taxi driver's story, and then we jump back to his passenger and we continue following their story. I just think it was like a really fun one. And it was all like things that were kind of happening at nighttime, like in the middle of the night, which I found really fun because it's like I am not a night bird. I am always in bed by like 10 o'clock. And so it was almost like, wow, there is this whole world that's happening while I sleep that I would probably never know about unless I decided to get up one night and just like go explore. And that was really fun. It was really enjoyable. It was also, I will say it was a little bit confusing at the beginning. And I think that's why I didn't finish it in 2024. Or like why I kind of started and stopped. But I enjoyed pushing through for it because it was really fun. And I gave it 4 stars. It's a very 4-star month. Next book I read is like the outlier of this group, and that is The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. I had The Wind in the Willows picture book when I was a kid, and I don't really remember it that much. I just remember like specific pictures. And this one No pictures, unfortunately. It's just the story. But it has a foreword by Gregory Maguire, and he basically starts questioning like what makes a children's book a classic. Like, how can we classify a children's book a classic when like it's written for children don't know what a classic is, so you can't be like, would you consider this a classic? You're having to ask adults if they think a children's book's a classic, and it's not written for them. And so he then said that the way to define a classic is, has it influenced future books? So like, can you see where future books have like drawn their inspiration from the book we're thinking that could be a classic? And how much do you remember of it as an adult, like, or like years down the line? And so with this, I was like, that's so interesting, because I feel like I don't remember any of it. Like, I feel like I'm like, I can see some pictures, like I can see Toad in his car, but like I can't remember any of it. And the more I read it, the more the pictures were coming back to me. Like, I could see the original drawings of the book that I had as a child, and I was like remembering a specific chapter, and then when I got to it, it was like so exciting to read that chapter and be like, I remember this, like I can see the whole thing. So it was like a really fun read. It was also so dense. Like, for a children's book, this is like dense. Like, there's so much description of the world going on that sometimes I was like, what did I just read? But it was fun to kind of push myself through that. I think because it is like an older book, it kind of has that style, if that makes sense. Like, you know how a lot of like classic literature or literature from like the early 1900s, actually, when was this published? I can't remember. 1908, yeah, early 1900s. It always has that like very like eloquent way of speaking, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I actually think a lot of kids' books nowadays have been like dumbed down, and I think that we don't necessarily like think of kids as smart, but like I read this as a kid, and even if I don't remember like reading the words, I had the book and I remembered the stories. So like, all that to say, I read this and I really enjoyed it, but I gave it 4 stars as well. Again, a 4-star month. I just really enjoyed it. I think it was, again, comforting and fun to like relive these tales that I could barely remember, and then getting to remember them. And also really fun to see how they pose like moral queries, like as it's a kid's book, kind of being like, okay, like what are we teaching in this book? And I think that was quite interesting, because it's like sometimes the characters would do things where I was like, I don't think that's like good. Obviously like Toad does shit that's not great, but like he's reprimanded. But like some of the other characters would do, I can't really think of anything right now, but I just remember there'd be moments where I was like, is that the message we're teaching? But it was fun. It was just really enjoyable, and I could see the animals and the lake and the woods and the willows and the trees and the animals, and I just enjoyed it. It was just like a fun, nostalgic read that was still quite challenging, which was also fun. Reading this makes me go, I think we should go back and reread the books we liked when we were younger, because there is just like such a fun joy in reliving these moments that you kind of can't remember, and then having the memories come back, if that makes sense. But yeah. And then the last book for this month is Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. I, again, bought this years ago and just never read it, but I really enjoyed it. It's very comforting, obviously. I gave it 4.5 stars. I really liked it. I think it was really nice because the whole premise is it's a cafe where you can like go back in time, but there are like all these stipulations to do that. So it's like, if you want to go back in time, you have, like, the person you're wanting to meet has to have been to the cafe before, so you can only go back to the moments that they were there. Anything you do in the past won't change the future. So it's very much like people are like, well, then why would I go back in time? But then the characters that we see go back, it's like, it's not necessarily about changing the future. It's like about saying the things that they didn't want to say, or like leaving the potential for change. Like, so one of the characters, I'll spoil it, whatever. Spoilers. One of the characters wants to go back to her ex-boyfriend because they broke up because he was moving to the US, and she's like, no, I wish I could change it, and I'd tell him not to go, and everyone was like, well, you can say that, but he'll always go because you can't change the future. And so she goes back and she says what she wants to say, and then he was like, wait for me, but like, don't wait for me, but like, wait, if you're still single and I'm still single, like, wait for me. And so when she comes back, it's like there's the possibility of something different, or like it's characters getting to go back and just say something they wish they had said, even if it doesn't change anything. And like, I think the good thing about it is it's not like I'm going back to change anything. It's a lot of the time just allowing characters to process the shit that they didn't process, or say the things they wish they'd said. Basically, I don't know if I explained that very well. I know that there are like, it's a huge series now. I don't want to read anymore. I think for me, I like it as like a standalone novel because one, I'm like, it could get a bit played out, but then two, I kind of like all the characters as they are, and I don't really want to see them change, if that makes sense. So yeah, I don't think I'll be reading any of the other ones, but I enjoyed this as like its own little standalone. I think some novels I do just prefer as a standalone, because I have some books where I thought they were a standalone, found out they weren't, kept reading and was like, I don't like where this has gone. So yeah, I won't be reading the rest, but I really, really liked this one. But yeah, 4.5 stars for this one. So that is my June library. I really enjoyed these books, and like I said, was obviously seeking comfort, so they are all very similar. So apologies for that if you were kind of hoping for some recommendations that were a bit different, but I do think that if you are looking for comfort or just looking for something easy to read, these are like all great options. I don't really have that much more to say. So thank you for watching, and see ya.